Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Gayla. My channel is called Living Beyond Biology, and it's my story of growing up, being adopted. A lot of people didn't know. So a lot of people I went to school with did not know that I was adopted because I look so much like my parents who raised me. So people didn't know. Some family members I just recently found the younger generation did not know either. So they're like, "Oh my God, can't believe it," But it's all in love. So I was a child that was loved by many. It took me a while to get here. Very nervous, so bear with me. And I might say a lot of ums and all that, but because I'm nervous. And once I start my flow, then I should be okay. Because I'm very shy. I don't really speak publicly too much. So yeah, so I just want to tell my story. I'm going to be looking down a little bit because I'm taking notes. It's my very, very, very first video. So yeah, I appreciate you stopping by, checking me out, and being a part of my journey and my story. So I wanted to thank a few people. For one, my niece. She has her own private detective agency. She didn't ask me to do this, so she's probably going to be like, "Oh my God." But so she helped me with this journey. So I truly want to thank her. I've already thanked her, amongst each other. However, I just want to thank her because I had given up a few times. This journey has been a long journey for me. I had given up way long time ago. When I was growing up, my mom wanted me to search. This was one of her wishes. She had asked me on a few occasions because they told me maybe when I was about 7. And it was so cute. She was like, "No, I want to sit you down. I want to tell you something. Your dad and I think maybe I was 5 or I might have been even younger than that, but I recall probably being around 5 when my parents set me down and told me that I was adopted. And I didn't understand, but she didn't want me to hear it from anyone else. She wanted to tell me herself. So they did that, and I just was like, "What is adoption? What does that mean?" And then my dad, I have to tell you the whole story with him. It was such a cute story, and he told me this story until up to the day he passed. The last time I saw him, he said the story. He read the story back to me from his memory, exactly how it happened. And every time I hear it, it makes me weep every single time. But my mom, they wanted to have another child. So they have 2 adult children. Not adults, but now, what I mean? They have 2 children who are boys. One is like 19 years older than me. The other one is 10 years older than me. So I was kind of like the baby of the family. Well, actually, I was the baby. However, my oldest brother was like maybe going to college already. And then my other brother was at home with me. So, but the way my journey started was my mother wanted to have another child. And then I don't know if she couldn't or she just, I don't really think she could carry another baby, but they wanted to adopt a girl. She longed for having a daughter. So the process started, and my dad, when he tells the story, he cracks me up. He cracked me up. He said, we had been to Cleveland because I'm born in Cleveland, Ohio. We have been to Cleveland so many times looking for babies. So many times. And he told my mom, "This is the last time we're going to Cleveland. If we can't find a baby this time, we're just going to have to be without a baby," because it was a long journey for them. They said they had been there a couple babies. My dad was like, "No, that's not it. That's not the one." My mom was like, "Oh, no." I guess the connection wasn't there. It wasn't that they didn't, the babies weren't beautiful and that the babies didn't need a home. It was just the connection, I guess, that initial connection that they had with the baby, that the babies that they had actually gone and seen. So anyway, they finally went, and I was 6 months old when I was adopted. So I was at I guess like an orphanage maybe. I don't know if they call it an orphanage or adoption agency, but my mom had a person that she dealt with. So it was what do they call them? Social workers. So the social worker called my mom and said, "Hey, we got a baby girl for you. She's 6 months old. Um, we're going to introduce her to a couple of families. So I know that you were looking to adopt a young daughter, a baby girl, whatever, you know." So they were like, "Awesome, we're on our way." So it's like maybe an hour and a half, maybe to Cleveland, maybe not that long where they're located. I think the hospital was called Huron Road Hospital. It's no longer there anymore. It may be a part of Cleveland Clinic now. But however, um, they got on the road, and as my dad said, this is going to be the last time. So when they got there, so I'm going to show you how my dad described this story to me. He told it the same way every single time. But he said, when we got there, you know, they set us in this room. Of course, we've been there several times. We know the routine. So they set us in this room, and this little baby came out with curly, I guess it was not really curly hair because it was little bitty hair. I didn't have a whole lot of hair. But the little piece I had was a little curl at the top. And it had a nerve to have a little bow in it. So my dad said, when I saw you, you were the cutest little baby. And when you reached out, when they brought you to us, you reached out your little hands and you did like this. I wanted him. I didn't want her. I wanted him. And that was the connection there. He was like, "That's the one." And he said, when I took you in my hands and my arms and I put you on my chest, you just sunk into my heart. You just sunk into my chest. And then your mom, you wanted her next, so you did the things to her, the fingers to her. But first, it was him. So that's where the connection was made. And they said, when they got me home, because they were allowed to, like, I don't know if they call it visits mainly. So they were able to do the adoption paperwork to get it started and then start the process. It was a long process from my understanding. You know, it's not just like overnight. So they had to do paperwork, and then they I think they had to go back again to pick me up, and all the stuff was with me, and then they got to, take me home for a couple of times, and I just blended with the family. I totally blended. So that's my first part of my journey, being adopted, and folk don't know. Because that lady loved me, and that man loved me like I came from their product. I don't know what to say. Most people say loins, but their product. I felt like growing up, I felt like I came from her, and a lot of times I forgot that I was adopted because they loved me so much. So that's the first part of my journey. So let me tell you the second part. Let me get into this. So how the adoption ended up being, is they went back, it kept me over a year. They had to keep coming to get me over a year's time. And then once that year's time is up, I guess the connection that was made with us, it was good. So they were like, "This is your baby. Do you want this child? Do you want to adopt this child?" And my mom and dad was like, "Of course we do. We love this baby. She's a part of us." And he didn't want her to be heartbroken because I think a family member they kept her for a while before I came along. And I think it was his sister's granddaughter. The mother was having some issues. Something went down, and they kept her for a long time. I think they kept her for about a year. My mom's heart was broken when they came back and got her because it wasn't adoption. It was just like family helping family. But they really thought that they were going to be able to keep the baby, but they didn't. So it broke her heart. And so she was like, "If this don't work, I'm going to be heartbroken." So I was able to go home with them, paperwork completed. And everything went well. So they adopted me. Family members, if some of y'all don't know, I am adopted, but not adopted, if you know what I mean. Love, just love, love, love. So that's why I called my channel The Child Loved by Many, because I was so loved. Growing up, I grew up in a little small town. Mansfield, Ohio, and I grew up there, so I had a great childhood. My mom kept me in activities. We always traveled. If we was poor, I never knew because my mom would have me everywhere. We were in Cleveland. We have been to New York. She took me to the ice capades. If we was poor, I didn't know. Because I guess I was the only child left at home because my middle brother is 10 years older than me. So he probably was, 10, 11, 12, 13. By that time, he was going to go to college, finish high school and go to college. So I was growing up kind of like by myself, I was the baby. So grew up there, and then my mom had asked me a few times, don't you want to find your birth parents and your birth mother, your birth father? And I had so many mixed emotions because they did, and this is going to be surprising to some, well, maybe not to some, because, people always ask me what my nationality was, so, that I was born to a biracial, through a biracial, I don't know how to even say it. They, having me, my mom was white and my dad was black. So please forgive me because, like I said, I'm really nervous, but I'm just real. I'm going to keep it real. So my mom was white and my dad was black. So, back in the 60s, wasn't a good thing, And from what my understanding was, my mom was from this little town. She was actually a nurse. So this is how the adoption came about. So she was a nurse, and she worked at the Huron Road Hospital where I was born. And I want to say she was either completing nursing school or had already completed nursing school. But she was a nurse at that hospital. And during that time, she lived in Cleveland. So she was from a little small town called Phillipsburg, PA, which I want to say is still a sundown town to this day. Sad to say. But it was a little small town, Phillipsburg, with one L, Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania. Look it up. So I was born at that hospital. So my journey was, my mom wanted me to find her. So I do know that she asked about me when I was maybe 4, and then maybe when I was 10. So I know that she loved me. She didn't want to give me away. And those times back in the 60s, I probably would have had a rough life. Because even in growing up in my mom's family and my dad, there was colorism. It's sad to say. Some of my darker skinned cousins was ridiculed, and some of us light folks was too. So it's sad to say that some, and this, I'm not saying in my mom's family, but my dad's family, a lot of them were brown or darker skinned, and I caught hell when I went to visit them people. So that's a whole nother story. But that part of my life was something as well. So I know I'm probably all over the place, but that's how the adoption went. My mom was a nurse. She worked at the hospital, and because of the 60s and who she was and where she was from, her family, those people were racist. And I mean racist. I hate to say that. And the reason I didn't really want to find out maybe about my birth mom is because I thought maybe it was rape. You have all these things that are going on in your head thinking, was she raped? I mean, if I go looking for her, this is before I found out about all the Phillipsburg and all this stuff, because what I did, they opened up the adoption. I want to say, oh shoot, Julia probably knows. I'm sorry for saying your name, but my niece Julia, she probably knows when we actually did this. She has all the paperwork because she's an investigator. So, but I want to say maybe it had to be 2015 because my mom had passed, and it was her it was the reason that we started this process is because she always wanted me to find out where I was from. She would say, just you need to find out for your health reasons, sweetie. You need to, you need to know these things because it's important. And it's not only because, and don't feel that you're going to take away from me because I'm going to always be your mother. I just want you to know where you came from. And I was just like, why? Because I'm happy. I have a great life. I don't need to know them people, and she gave me away. And, I knew that she cared and loved about me because she did ask about me a few times, because my mom told me so. And she had a relationship with that social worker, and she was a black lady. So she had kept my mom abreast of, conversations she had with my actual birth mother. So that's how that came about. So I do know that she cared and loved about me. So after my mom passed away in 2015 is when, I want to say shortly after we started the process, we opened up Ancestry.com. And I know I'm probably dumping a lot on you guys right now, and I'm all over the place. So I promise you my next video, now that I'm opening up and I'm feeling a little bit more confident, I probably won't babble so much. But I had to get this out. So when that adoption opened up, I want to say we opened up the Ancestry.com first. So we did Ancestry.com. And what made me do it is that my oldest brother and my cousin, she did it. She lives in Atlanta. I'm not going to say her name, but shout out to Atlanta. She know who she is. But she was on there, looking for family, just trying to get those trees started. And so my oldest brother and her showed as first cousins. And they was like, hey, cuz, how are you, cousin? And I knew then that the DNA is real. Of course, it's real because you see all the TV shows or whatever. But the DNA is real. So that matched them. And I was like, And then my niece was like, girl, we need to do this. And I was like, we do. Because that's actually her dad, that did the DNA through Ancestry way before we even thought about it. So that's how we knew to go ahead and get it started. So we opened up Ancestry. And I'm like, I'm cheap. I'm like, I ain't trying to open up no Ancestry, pay no stuff, I don't want to be paying no money for nothing like that. But we opened it up. We did it. It wasn't a whole lot back then. It's a little bit more now. But back then, I'm still trying to do my thing, and I'm struggling a little bit. So I ain't trying to pay no extra money for nothing. But I did. So I opened it up, and we started to research. I started with my mom and dad's tree. The Mack's tree. As you can see, my name is Gayla Mack. And now I'm Austin. I'm married. But when I was, that was my given name by them. So we opened up the Ancestry.com. And then we did that. There was not really not too many. It was this one particular young lady who kept matching with me. She was like my second cousin or something. So we just kept reaching out to her, and she was very helpful. And we did this for like over a year. Then we kind of lost and fell off. So I canceled the Ancestry.com because I'm like, no, I'm not going to keep paying for this stuff. So my niece on the back end, and who she is, she kept on digging and grinding and digging. And she was like, it's going to be okay. So then I think I might have opened it back up again. She said, things are getting better on Ancestry. So let's open it back up. So I opened it back up. And when we opened it back up, we found a match, a lady that matched with me, and they said she could either be my aunt or my half sister. And we were like, oh my God. She was like, did you see it? I was like, yeah. She was like, girl, this is amazing. So she wrote down all this stuff, and the people that's related to her, she's doing her Facebook stuff. She's figuring stuff out. She's very good at what she does. So she's figuring stuff out. So she's like, hey, I think I might have found, your daddy's side of people. I'm like, what? So it was such a hard journey. That was the hard journey. My dad was my hard journey. But my first, I'm getting a call. I'm so sorry. But my first part was, my with the birth certificate. So what happened was after we did the Ancestry.com, everything came about with my mom. So she ended up finding her. And this was probably in 20, just some years later, because it probably was a year or two later. It was not an easy process. It took us a while. So I think it was like maybe 2 years, maybe. But she had all this stuff written down. She's good. She's found other people, for other people. And it was just eating away at her heart because she was like, I can do this for other people and find their relatives and their thing, those family members, but I can't even find my own aunts. And it was eating away at her. Sorry, my hair is sticking up. But she was like, I can't even find my own aunts, biological parents. And I was like, girl, it's okay. It's all right. So what we did when we opened up Ancestry again, we started we connected trees, and then we found out a few things because what I did is I ordered my birth certificate, because the adoptions opened up. So I don't know if you all know that closed adoptions, because mine was closed. My middle brother he was trying to find my mom some years ago. It took him years. It was like 5 years. He was like, I think I found her, but I don't know the address, the last known address. So it was a big old, long, drawn out, process. But when they opened up the adoption paperwork is when it all came about. So I ordered my birth certificate, and on my original birth certificate, it was two birth certificates my mom had. One had, my name was actually Laura, and it had an X beside it. So they didn't have my last name on there. So apparently they had to give me some type of name when I was first born. So my name was Laura X. Laura X? Laura, Laura. And I'm like, ugh, I don't even look like no Laura, but okay. Laura X it was. And then my mom, gave me the savvy name of Gayla Marie. So, and it's Gayla. So yeah. So I was like, now I look like a Gayla. For sure, I look like a Gayla. But yeah, so when I got my birth certificate, it showed my name was Laura X, the first one. And then my mom had one with Nathaniel, her name, all the names on there, my dad and my mom's name. And they found, we found, that was okay. That was my birth certificate. So the third birth certificate I ordered, when I first got the adoptions were open. Had to be 2016, maybe 2017, maybe, because it felt like it was like 2 years later. So I'm gonna say 2017 is when the adoptions opened up, and when I ordered the birth certificate and it came back, and I was so excited. And I opened the birth certificate, and it had my mother's name on it. So her name was Nancy Jane Nelson. So we got on Ancestry.com. We plugged in her birth date. We plugged in her name. I don't know if it had her birth date on it. I don't know how we end up with the birth date. Probably Julie and her smarts. But we plugged in her name, and it started popping up things on Ancestry because I still had it open. So it started popping up like things, and not to be funny, but a lot of the documents for white, individuals are documented. And it took me a lot longer to find my dad because those documents were not documented. And that's just the real truth of it. It was not documented. So it took us a lot longer to find him. But with my mom, we found her. My niece ended up finding a nephew and a niece that was adopted by my aunt. So there was a lot of them, the Nelsons. It's like a lot of Nelsons in that particular town. So they found, she had like maybe 6 or 7 siblings, maybe even more than that. But it shows their whole lifespan from like the 1700s all the way up until the 1800s, 1932, all the way up to 50s, 40s. It documented all their stuff, like their census reports. It's an amazing tool. So if you are looking and you are adopted and you think that you at the end of your road, never give up, because I did, but Julie wouldn't let me. So I'm so glad she didn't. But um, so finding all that out, it was just overwhelming. So I had to sit back for a little while, and I was like, "Whoa, this is a lot." So I started doing research on my own because we're still working. We got full-time jobs. We're trying to get this done, and we're still doing it on the side. So so it was a long process. Again, as I said. So we once we found that, I started calling around, and I looked up the names in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania. I got, like, there's a lot of Nelsons in Pennsylvania, and it's a pretty much dominantly, I won't even say dominantly, it's a white town. And it's nothing against that, because I am a product of where that came from. But as I said earlier, I want to say it's still kind of considered a sundown town. So with that being said, I got on the phones, and, my time off, and, during the week or whatever, when I got off work, I would, call these numbers and research. And I called a few of them and left messages, and, like, if you can give me a call back, that'd be great. So I called this one lady, and she answered. I was so excited, and I was like, "Hi." I was like, "My name is Gayla, and I am looking for my birth mother." And I kind of explained the story to her, and, and she said to me, um, well, that's nice and all, but can I ask you a personal question? I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Are you Caucasian?" And I said, "No, ma'am." I said, "But my mother was." And she said, "Yeah, no, now there's two sets of Nelsons here in Phillipsburg. Two sets." She wanted me to know it was two sets, because we don't have that sort of thing in this family over here. Now, that other set of Nelsons, they may have that over there, but no, we don't have that over here. And I wish you well on your search, sweetie. And I was like, "Well, thank you so much." And she said, "You're most welcome," and hung up the phone. So that ended for me, because I was like, "You know what? Not doing this. I'm not going to do this no more." I was going to give up. Of course, my niece was like, "No, we're not going to give up." But it was a hot mess, as if we could say back in the day, a hot mess. So I cracked up, and I called her and told her. She's like, "What?" I said, "Girl, that place is racist." And once I start digging into that little city, looking up stuff about that little town, it's something else. So the reason my mom gave me up for adoption is because she couldn't keep me, because her whole family was racist. Whole family. Um, from what the girl said, my aunt's kids that she adopted. So listen to this story. She adopted these two kids within the Phillipsburg community. Their parents were drug addicts. The mom and the dad were on drugs pretty bad. And instead of them putting them in foster care, my aunt knew her personally, to their family personally. This is my mother's sister, one of my mother's sisters. Because my birth mother, excuse me, my birth mother's sisters, because she had a bunch of siblings. And I think it was her, and they were pretty close in age, because my mom was the youngest. So it's a lot of them. So the young lady was explaining to Julia, that they were adopted by my aunt, and that Aunt Nancy didn't have any kids. And so she connected me to the young lady. I forget her name. I think it was Pamela. Um, and Pamela was like, "Aunt Nancy didn't have any kids." So I had to show her my birth certificate. I sent her a picture of my birth certificate. I sent her a picture of me, of my birth mom, side by side. And she was like, "Oh my God, you look just like Aunt Nancy." I said, "Yes, I do." Um, and she was like, "Wow." She said, "Aunt Nancy never said anything about having any kids. Nobody ever knew." And she didn't have any more kids. So she was an honorable mother. She didn't have any more children, because I guess her baby she had to give away. She didn't want to have any more children. Plus, it probably would have been a mess. Me being sibling, a half sibling. Just take that off. A half sibling to other, you know, probably pure white children. If she decided to have more kids with the white man, so she was very honorable and not have any more kids. So the young lady said, her and her brother grew up. My aunt raised them, and she said they caught pure, excuse my expression, pure hell. Because, like I said, her mom and her dad was on drugs heavily. She said those people ridiculed her and her brother. They made their lives a living heck because it's a pretty big, I mean, a pretty small town. Everybody know everybody. So they knew that their parents, she said they called them white trash. They called them all kinds of racial slurs, just mean people. So the town itself was horrible. Not sure how it is today, but in 20, what was that, 16, 17? She was kind, but she was racist. So yeah, so that's my story as far as that particular part goes. For that, looking for my mother, with that portion of my adoption, I know it was all over the place. So that's that portion. So I'm going to close this out for right now, and then I'm going to collect my thoughts and come back with the portion about my dad. And oh, well, you know what? Before I let you go, my mother was, when we looked for her, she was already deceased. She had already passed away in 2013 is when she passed away, and she passed away from lung cancer. She was a smoker, a nurse that was a smoker, and that's something. But probably to, how can I say it, to cover that pain. You know, people pick up other things that they do to cover pain. So she probably did that to cover, and she probably was nervous probably nervous as heck, because she didn't know where I was gonna pop up at, and all them people and racist folks in her family. She probably was afraid, because when my niece did find her, she didn't have an obituary. She did not want me to find her. Not saying that she didn't want me to find her. She didn't want me to find her family, because those people probably would have hung me and her and my daddy. Yeah, because he was black. So yeah, they probably would have hung us all. She probably would have been shunned, and pretty much thrown to the wolves. So she protected me from all that. So I can say she truly loved me, and I was not a product of rape. And I'm gonna come back and tell you the rest of that story in my next video. All right. Well, thank you for stopping by. I feel a little better. I feel a little better. And I might have the same outfit on, because I'm probably going to just collect my thoughts and then come back and do a second portion of it. It's been like 30 minutes, so, you know, to tell the story or whatever. And I don't want to tell it all in one day. I ain't doing no Risa Tisa, but it's stuff in between that you probably need to know about, childhood. And like I said, there's some colorism, going to visit other family members of my dad's side, just things like that, that I would like to share. So being an adopted child, it could be hard, or it could be easy, because I've heard some horror stories, and I'm so sorry for that, because I can truly say my mother and my father loved me to the end. I never felt adopted. I never felt unwanted. I never felt unloved. My whole family, my mother's family, oh my God, just put their loving arms around you and just take such good care of you. And my dad's, they weren't really all that nice, but my daddy did not play about his daughter. His baby girl, that's what they call me. And they call me that to this day. My brothers call me baby girl. I was like, do you know I'm almost 60 years old and you're still calling me baby girl? And they was like, we don't care. You will always be baby girl to us. So, yeah. So that's part of my journey, my story. I feel better. So yeah, hopefully my next video I won't be so nervous. But thank you for listening. If you would tune in again, and I appreciate all of you listening to part of my journey. And I look forward to seeing you again in my next video. Have a great day. Bye bye.